Here's another one that I just had to select because the headline was just too enticing for me. They got me. Heavy.com got me.
Uh-oh.
Joe Rogan responds to Prince Harry. Like, I just love it, man. Prince Harry and Joe Rogan, I would love to see it. I would love to see it because it's just two completely different worlds colliding. I was surprised to find out that Prince Harry had made comments about Joe Rogan in general.
Oh, really?
That just seemed like, I don't know. I don't like, is there even crossover there? But anyway, he did. Apparently he was on a podcast with, I got to find it now. Which podcast was he on?
Dax Shepard.
There you go.
Armchair expert.
Dax Shepard, armchair expert. He's on the podcast, and he just basically, I mean, he said similar things to what others have said regarding Rogan's comments on vaccines recently. And his point was kind of the point that everybody makes or is commonly made, which is, hey, when you have a platform, you have a responsibility, right? Those were the comments that he sort of made. But he brought up his name, and Rogan's name has kind of become representative of something more than any one person. It like represents for some people, a way of thinking, or that you belong to a club. Like, I've been seeing the memes on social media that's like, where it will be somebody who would post, I met the perfect guy. I met the perfect guy on a first date, and then he told me he loves Joe Rogan. So that relationship is over now. And you're like, whoa, that's pretty strict rules you have there. But anyway, it's just become kind of a meme. And it's also, he's also continued to elevate, for whatever reason, as a concept up in this list of things that people are interested in, as a theme almost. And so when Heavy posts about it and I click on it, or when I post about it and now you click on it when you're watching this, that's just the current status. That's the way that it goes. We're interested to know. And even Prince Harry is interested enough to talk about it. But his take was, you've got a platform, you've got a responsibility. We have people going out there and forming their opinions based on what you're saying, and therefore you're having an effect on the community. And it's whatever, it's a valid point. However, you need to also go look at the other side, which is the fact that people have legitimate concerns. People want to watch and interact with content that feels real, feels like they're talking to a human and not to a public relations firm, not to a politician, not to a prince in certain circumstances, where everything is measured. And for the record, I consider it, because you and I, we come here and we talk, I personally love the challenge of attempting to measure and pace and go and this and that. But I don't ever want to do it at the extent of not being able to have a human conversation. And it's one of the risk factors that comes along with human conversation is vulnerability. You want to walk out on a limb, you can fall off the limb. You can make mistakes.
Sure.
You know, it's a risky thing, but it's also an exciting thing to partake in. And it's one of the reasons that if you get around with pals, it's a comforting thing to know, okay, we can approach maybe controversial subject matter and still, in the end of it, recognize that it's not going to end our relationships here. And people have substituted some of those personal relationships with, especially during pandemic times, with these platforms, that they become representative of that.
Yes.
So do I feel that there should, in some circumstances, be disclaimers and all the rest of it? Sure. But we also have to recognize that it comes at the expense of intimacy. It comes at the expense of feeling like you're really a fly on the wall in a real conversation, because regular humans don't put disclaimers on every single thing that they say. Not an expert, not financial advice. I am not a doctor. I mean, that's all we'd be saying if we were doing something like that in personal life. However, I do feel that if you didn't phrase something in the best way you could have, I do feel you backtrack and you freshen it up. You come out and you say, I found a better way to phrase what I was doing, what I was going for there. Yeah. I stepped on a couple little landmines. I poked my toe. I stubbed my toe. As far as the conversation was concerned.
After, 90 or like 2 hours of talking.
Yes.
Nonstop. I mean, there's going to be mistakes.
Well, you can speak to it.
I can definitely speak
to it. You can speak to it. So anyway,
it happens.
Anyway, Prince Harry said that he needs to be more responsible. He sort of tackled him a little bit on vaccine comments. And then Rogan came back and responded and basically said, nah, I'm sure he's a nice guy. I'm sure it ain't no big deal. Harry would be fine if I met. Here's a quote. Harry would be fine if I met him. Harry's just talking from afar. He doesn't know me, and he's lived as a royal. If Harry and I hung together, I could get him to relax. Just relax. It might take a little while. It might take a little time, but he's not a bad guy. He's just a guy. I mean, that doesn't really tell you very much, but in this entire podcast where Rogan responded, he was basically saying, like, look, I've become comfortable with the criticism. This thing has grown so much that, like, it's just part of the game. It's part of the clicks. It's part of the environment. It's part of the fabric of the operation of the internet, you know, that you can become a theme. You can become a target, and you're going to get criticism. It's part of the gig. And he does seem, in some of the quotes, he does seem pretty comfortable with it. But anyway, my thing is, now that we have this dialogue, it's about time we get to Prince Harry on the podcast, on Rogan's podcast. And they can sort through it. They can have a wonderful conversation. What do you think? You think it's an open invitation or what?
Yeah, definitely.
For sure, on Rogan's side it is.
Yeah.
Get the Prince over there. But the Prince is seeing he's the only one to talk to Oprah at the moment.
Well, he just did that Dax.
Oh, yeah, you're
podcast,
right. Okay,
right?
yeah, you're right. He did that.
He's starting.
So he's doing more content. Let's get the Prince on there for 3 hours, and we'll see what happens in Austin, Texas. I don't know.
Yeah.
He can go in there and lambaste him and talk about vaccines, and
then we'll talk about it. It's going to be on heavy again.
And it gets on heavy, and then we get a clip out of it, and it's a wonderful little ecosystem of interest.
Sure.
I think they should probably have a little bit of whiskey to soften things up, though.
Yeah,
I don't know.
not?
I mean, just a tiny bit.
Yeah.
Nothing
I
life-changing.
Totally agree.
Just a tiny bit. And he could be like, are you a guy? And then he looks across. He goes, I'm a guy. Are you a guy? And they go, we're a couple guys.
They high five and, you know.
We're a couple guys. Have
That's
you
great.
screwed up before? Absolutely. How about you? You screwed up all the time. Okay, sick. Are we pals now? Absolutely. Let's go play rugby. I don't know if
Rugby.
I don't know what Prince Harry played. I think it might have been rugby. I'm just trying to recollect now. Royal. What would a royal do? I don't know. Yeah. I might be wrong about that. Don't. Anyway, couple of pals. That's what they're going to be.
Sure.